Hello and welcome back to Fantasy Hockey Picks and Bets, another bonus episode going over some hockey gambling strategy in general. I'm going to start it off with going over same game parlays. I mentioned I'd go over this in a little bit more detail. Now, I think the first thing I will say about this whole thing is it's probably not EV positive over the long test of time to bet on these. Are they fun? Yes. Will I do them when I go to a game? Sure. I mean, it's going to make things way more interesting, but this is not a strategy that should come out profitable over the test of time. There's reasons why. Now, number one is that anytime you parlay anything together, you're automatically losing expected value, especially when you're talking about uncorrelated events. Now, where same game parlays come into the mix is you can actually correlate things together in order to kind of build a game script. Think about it like a showdown slate, as I talked about before, where you're kind of building the game script that you like, which you can do with same game parlays, but you're paying a pretty high tax, if you will. Around 18 to 22% is sort of what I've calculated, and even higher depending on what you're putting together. So if you say, I think Mikko Rantanen and McKinnon are going to score, I know this is supposed to be kind of the test of time, but they should be in Colorado for quite some time. And then you say Colorado over 3.5, you're kind of going to get very bad odds on that 3.5. They're not going to put it in there like you're just betting them to score over 3.5 goals, which is just going to add this unnecessary variance into the mix. I would say that, you could play around with these, mess around, have fun with them. Definitely take advantage of when they say, hey, we're going to give you a free same game parlay. As long as you pay $10 and then we'll give you another one. Like those are fine. Take two stabs at it for, $10. Those are totally okay to play, but it's just not a strategy that I would suggest to say, I'm going to bet on hockey every day and I want to come out X amount of units ahead. This is never going to get you there. You may hit a gold mine, 1 in every 60, but I don't think that's a great strategy for betting. And I don't really think there's any reason to do it. Now, on the other hand, I was shopping the books. You can sometimes find things that are same game parlays together in boosted props in different entities. And I think that those are definitely worth investigating more. You'll get a player to score and the win. You'll get a team to score or team to win and win the first period. Stuff like that is a little bit more interesting when you get the boost, because generally speaking, they're kind of giving it to you at face value. That's really where I would primarily focus on same game parlays, because if you really like it enough and they're boosting it, that kind of just makes it perfect. And on a huge slates, they give you a lot of options. So that's probably the better way of doing it. And you know what, like I said, if you want to have fun once in a while, have fun once in a while, but I would not suggest doing this because, like I said, they're basically taking the expected value and saying, well, we're taking 18 to 22%. Just that is ours now. Yeah, that's not great. It's never, the math is not going to be in your favor in that capacity. But if you're very DFS mind centric and focused, you might be able to say, well, I think I'm better than, this percentage at kind of understanding the way teams are playing and scripting it together. I think go for it a little bit here or there, but I only do it as like a test and play more than anything else. And it's fun. I really do think it's fun, and it's a good time. And if that's what you're in for, if you're like, I like to throw $10 down every few nights, absolutely have fun. But if you're in this for the long haul, definitely not EV positive strategy. The second thing I want to go over, which is something I've been very adamant about, very interested in, and there's really no one we can probably in the community thank more than Dom, and I'm going to try to say his last name, and I know I've heard it so many times, Decision. If you don't subscribe to The Athletic, please, do. If you do subscribe to The Athletic, I think his model every day is something you're kind of doing yourself a disservice by not just going to his model every day. He posts between 10 and 12, going over some of like what it's telling him to bet. And it's, it is paywalled. I definitely can't send it out to anyone because it is paywalled and you don't want to do that to anyone, but he is really good, really smart, very analytically focused. And he was the one that kind of teed me in on this a couple of years back when he posted his How to Bet on Hockey article. And, it might seem like, well, you're supposed to be the expert, right? But like any reading on this is doing more than most of the people are. So like every article you read on strategy from a trusted source is like way more than most people are doing when they're betting on things, that most people just do it up, gut reactions and things. So definitely check that out. It is not paywalled. So if you go to The Athletic, there's free articles, or if you just go to Dom's, I think it's Dom at The Athletic is his Twitter name. You can find this article, and he touched on betting these plus 300 odds. Now, the basic principle is like, let's say we have 10 games with plus 300 and we bet 100 on all of those games and we get 3 out of 7. Okay, 3 times out of 7. The implied odds are, not exactly that. It's a little bit worse, but we say that we're a little bit better than that. Hockey's a little more random. That 3 out of 7 or 3 out of 10. I'm sorry, 3 wins, 7 losses. So 3 out of 10, which is not, obviously if you're betting 10 things, you win 3 times. You're like, man, I must be. No, you actually put profit. So $100 plus 300, 10 times, you win 3. You would come up with $200 ahead. Now, if you reverse that and you said, I am going to bet 10 games with minus 300, massive favorites, just teams, the Stanley Cup champ contender against the potential lottery team at, minus 300, easy. It's parlay fodder, as many would call it, but you want to put 300 on it because you're so confident and you win 7 of 10. You will lose money. I don't have the exact. I think it is you lose like $100 or $200 or something like that. So that's kind of the basic strategy, is that betting 300 and going 7 of 10 on massive favorites, you would come out in the red. But betting 100 on massive underdogs, you get 3 wins, you come out of the green. That's the basic theory. And I just did a little bit of math. And so when recording this, if you listen to this way in the future, I just did this year. I took the Sabres in Arizona, 2 of the worst teams in the NHL going into the year. Everyone said these are the worst teams, right? This year, and these odds I took from Vegas Insider. I pulled all of the ones that were right around plus 300 because I know that if you shop the books, you could have found it there. So I'm just going to kind of keep everything even with this. This is not a direct payout. Obviously, I'm not going to get those numbers because I wasn't going to crunch them. But the Sabres in games, they had 7 games that I found that were right around plus 300, and they were 2-5. Arizona had 13 and they were 4-9. That gives you 6 times that you would have won and 14 times you would have lost. So 3 wins. So out of what that would have been incredibly profitable. I mean, it would have, if you would have bet $100 on every one of those games on the money line, yeah, you're looking pretty freaking good right now. I mean, that's how it works. And hockey is so random and there's so much variance. And the hardest part is actually talking yourself into these bets. So I am holding myself accountable. I am going on Twitter and posting that I'm doing it. And right now I've only been doing it for $1 and I just got legally able to do it in New York. So if you're in New York and this video is coming out right around that time when we got legalized in New York. So if you do this over the long period of time, you should come out profitable. Now, is there, anything to just throwing the caution to the wind and saying, I'm just going to bet every one of them? That might not be the best way of doing it. It might be worth investigating a little bit into getting some research, getting some, checking the news and notes, making sure there's nothing crazy out there. But, these bets seem to hit a little bit more than they should, if you will. So like I said, if you would have bet all year in 2021, 2022, up until the middle of the season, we're right around the All-Star break on Arizona and Buffalo, every time they were plus 300 or more, or right around there, I mean, you would have had 6 wins and 14 losses. And that's coming out ahead, as I just said. Yeah, pretty good. So that is one theory that you can work with, play with, have fun with. And hockey's random. So that's why it works. If you have any questions about this, the one thing I'm working on right now, which I actually talked to Dom and I asked him if he ever done this, I am trying to work on is it better or like more likely, like what is the, I guess, implicit like risk you're taking on by betting the under with it? Because oftentimes what I've noticed and kind of looking through these numbers, it checks out, is that the team pulling this upset is generally goalie driven, meaning that the under is disproportionately more likely to hit. So that's another thing I've been working with. I think that makes sense to many people. But I don't think it's perfect because the problem with it is saying it every single time is that what happens when you get the news that, X goalie is out for whatever reason, and now you're thinking, well, now maybe this backup just stinks. I'm going to take the over with it. So I don't think it's a perfect science. I think like all things considered, the under is more likely to hit, but I wouldn't just blindly throw it in the mix because it is taking on a lot of risk because you're also, goalies are really very random. So that is the basic theory. I hope this is helpful. I hope if you have any questions, you'll reach out to me. I've had people reach out to me. I've had people say like, this is really cool. Like I've never thought about this because most people see, X team at minus 500 and the other team at plus 310, and you're like, I'm not touching that. It's like, I don't know. Maybe it's time to sack up and do it. I'm doing it. I am telling everyone I'm doing it. I'm posting that I'm doing it, and you're gonna see me. So follow me at DJ_Mitchell94. Follow along with this theory and get in on it if you'd like. I think it's actually pretty strong. Thank you. Take care, and best of luck out there in the betting season that we're in.